Hi, I'm Casey Hollins, and this is another edition of your Sportsnet.ca digital panel. With the MLB season winding down now, we're here to talk everything about race to the postseason. So we're joined by some baseball specialists. We've got Ben Ennis and Mike Cormack from the website and Arden Zwelling from the magazine. Welcome, guys.
Hey, good to be here.
So I want to ask first, what team has been the most surprising in the last 6 weeks?
I'm going to go off the board, I guess, and kind of go with the Milwaukee Brewers. They're a team that was pretty much dead to rights back on July 27th when they traded their ace, or at least their co-ace, Zach Greinke. Since then, they've gone 29-16. They've creeped back into the playoff race. They're 2.5 games back of the St. Louis Cardinals right now. I don't know if they're going to catch them, but they're going to be an interesting team to watch down the stretch.
How do you not say the Baltimore Orioles, though? I mean, that's what we've been saying all season long, right? And a couple of months ago, we expected the regression to happen. It never did. Manny Machado, obviously, adding another dimension to that offense. But still, I look at that starting staff, 1 through 5. Is there one pitcher that scares you at all on that starting staff for the Baltimore Orioles? I can't think of one. I mean, maybe Wei-Yin Chen, a little bit scary, but yeah. The Milwaukee Brewers, Philadelphia Phillies, same deal, where it looked like they were dead and buried, and all of a sudden now they're right back in the thick of the playoff picture, and at the expense, it's the Pittsburgh Pirates, who look like a 20th straight season. They're going to finish below 500 when it looked like they were at least a lock to finish above 500. But yeah, the Brewers surprising. The Phillies, I'm sure preseason you wouldn't say it's surprising that they're in the playoff mix, but right now it's definitely surprising.
I'm with Ben on this one, the Baltimore Orioles. It seems like everyone's been waiting for the other shoe to drop for the entire season. It simply hasn't. They've been getting great contributions from guys in their mid-30s like Lou Ford, Andy Chavez.
Love me some Lou Ford.
Replacement-level players like Robert Andino. Everyone's just kind of waiting for them to lose, and they haven't. And you look at the extra inning games they've won, the one-run games they've won. It's been really fun to watch.
Are there any teams that you're surprised are not in playoff contention right now?
Well, to me, not that they're not in playoff contention, but the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim or of the world, or California, whatever you want to call them. The Angels, how are they not in a playoff position right now? I have no idea. You look at that starting staff. I talked about how poor the Baltimore Orioles staff 1 through 5 looks. You look at that staff. C.J. Wilson hasn't really performed up to expectations, but you add Zach Greinke. And you got Jared Weaver, of course, as well. And that offense with the probable MVP and Mike Trout and Albert Pujols. How are they not right now in a playoff position? I have absolutely no idea. And I expect them to be there. And they're still within striking distance.
Well, they're not there, Ben, not because they're playing poorly, but because the Oakland Athletics are playing so well right now. It has nothing to do with poor play on the Angels' part. It's all to do with the Oakland Athletics. They're one of the most surprising teams in baseball. Apologies to the Baltimore Orioles. But they look like they're a team that's going to stick around for a while. If the Angels don't make the playoffs, it's not their fault. It's all on the surprise.
It's not their fault. It's not their fault. No, they didn't play those games. Of course it's their fault. How can you say it's not their fault?
Well, they're playing well. They're playing well enough to be a playoff team in many other divisions. They've got a great run differential.
Can't say that now with the second wild card, though. They have their opportunities. If they don't make the playoffs, it's their fault. And it probably comes down to C.J. Wilson's performance down the stretch, and Irvin Santana as well. The 30-plus home runs he's given up this season. But still, with 4 very capable starting pitchers, you should be in the playoffs.
Well, I'm just not going to be surprised if they don't make it, given the record right now. They're not playing like a sub-500 team. They're not Philadelphia. They're not the Milwaukee Brewers, teams that are 2 or 3 games above 500. They're playing well above average baseball right now. And if they don't make the playoffs, I'm not going to be surprised, given how well other teams are playing.
Do you agree?
Yeah, it's going to be tough to make the playoffs when Torrey Hunter and Vernon Wells make up 2/3 of your outfield every day.
Torrey Hunter's hitting over 300, though.
I'm not a big Torrey Hunter fan myself. I think a team that's like that, though, is the Detroit Tigers, who are another team that have all kinds of talent and are not in a playoff position as it stands today, although they could move into one soon. You look at the fact that they've got last year's MVP and Cy Young winner Justin Verlander. They got Miguel Cabrera, who's given Mike Trout a pretty good run for this year's.
Depends on who you ask.
For this year's MVP trophy, they've got a stacked lineup. Prince Fielder, they went out and they spent to contend in the offseason, and it hasn't worked out for them.
So big change this season with playoffs. They've added some wildcard spots, and some people were kind of cursing that a little bit at the beginning of the season. They weren't a big fan of the change, and now it's made this race to the postseason quite exciting, or at least it was a couple weeks ago. What do you guys think of the change?
Well, I mean, it was as exciting as it could get last season, obviously, with the final day of the regular season. So much going down on game 162. It's going to be the same, it looks like, this year, except it puts more of an emphasis on winning the division, which to me is a great thing because you should be rewarded if you win your division. If you win your division, you don't have to play that stupid, well, not stupid, it's going to be exciting, but you don't have to play that one-game wild card play in-game. You get a full series, although you have to start it on the road potentially if you play that wild card team. But to me, it's been nothing but positives. I have nothing negative to say about it. If there was not a second wild card, first of all, the Baltimore Orioles would not be in the playoffs right now. They'd be battling with Oakland, of course, for that wild card. And you look at teams even further back. I mean, the Angels and the Tigers would just have that even a further road to hoe to get into the playoffs. It's been great, in my opinion.
And in the National League, we wouldn't be talking about teams like Milwaukee and Philadelphia creeping back into playoff contention. They'd be out of it because the Atlanta Braves are so far ahead of them. Likewise, the St. Louis Cardinals, the defending World Series champions, they've got a good chance to repeat simply because that second wild card is there. Or at least they've got a better chance of doing so. I don't think anybody, even a lot of players, managers who had problems with it at the beginning, I think everybody's on board right now.
It's been great for races. I think what remains to be seen is how those games are going to play out at the beginning of October. Are you going to have tiebreakers for division wins? And then are you going to have a one game there and then another wild card
I'm hoping
play-in
everybody's
game?
tied for every wild card. And we have like 20 play-in games and then the play-in game.
You have the potential of one team playing 3 games in 3 nights
awesome.
in 3 different cities.
Yeah.
And I don't know how, as a baseball team, you're going to be able to do that with the fatigue and the wear of traveling.
Were you guys this enthusiastic about the added wildcard spots at the beginning of the season?
Absolutely. I thought it was long overdue.
You were all on board?
Like instant replay, it's something that has needed to happen for a long time. Just for, and last year was the perfect example. Like you brought up game 163, 162. It was, that was the exact example of how exciting this can be.
And we thought it would probably be the Blue Jays, another avenue for the Blue Jays to make the playoffs, of course, playing in that tough American League East division. Now, it turns out the American League East isn't even close to the toughest division in baseball. I would say probably the American League West right now is one of your tougher divisions in the American League, at least. But, yeah, it obviously didn't work out for the Blue Jays with all the injuries suffered there. But I think we got to take it another step further. Now, the second wild card is helpful, but let's talk about a balanced schedule for next season because you're all playing for these 2 wild card spots against everybody else in your league, but you don't play the same schedule. You have to play everybody in your division 18 times. Let's just have everybody play everybody at the same number of times.
Well, it's coming, but baseball can only solve one problem at a time, and obviously with the Astros moving over to the American League, that's going to help matters quite a bit. We're going to have interleague play throughout the entire season next year. That's going to be a whole new dynamic. But all in all, I think baseball is going through a tremendous season this year. Blue Jays fans, apologies aside, but baseball's a lot of great storylines, and it's going to be an exciting final few weeks of the season.
If you want to talk about balance, you've got different rules in different leagues.
Yeah.
So it's inherently going to be imbalanced until they pick one, either a designated hitter or the pitcher bats.
So the season's wrapping up. We've got maybe about a dozen games left. What are the teams and the players that people need to be paying attention to?
Well, they need to pay attention to the teams that are in the playoff position right now. And I think in the American League, the team you're looking at is the Texas Rangers. And despite their strong record this season, I still think there's some issues with that starting staff. I mean, again, you don't have that scary pitcher, that ace-type pitcher that's going to scare you come the playoffs. And what?
I think it's Yu Darvish right now. Yu Darvish, he's been incredibly streaky, but
unproven.
Right now,
and hasn't been able to find the strike zone consistently.
He hasn't, but when he's hot, like he is right now, he's been dynamite. He's been good, he's been terrible, he's been great, he's been terrible, and he's been dynamite again as he is right now. I think Yu Darvish is gaining confidence as the season goes on. He's striking out a lot of batters. He's got a bit of a swagger. He talked about finding his concentration in his last start out, which was something that was missing for him. If he stays focused and confident, he's going to be that ace the Rangers need.
How do you not be afraid of the Atlanta Braves right now? I mean, nothing to say ill about the Washington Nationals. They've had a great season overall, but the Braves swept them recently, and they've got Chris Medlin, who's the best pitcher in baseball the last month and a half, and that offense we know can score as well in the National League. Those are my 2 teams to watch, the Rangers and the Braves.
I think the Washington Nationals have been really under the radar if you're a casual fan. If you're really into baseball like us, you love an attitude. But for the casual fan, you're not noticing just how good they are. The best team in the league, and no one seems to give them any credit for it. They might not even need Steven Strasburg to do well.
So we're running out of time, but before we wrap up, I want to ask you guys for your World Series predictions from the experts.
My prediction, I look at once you get into the playoffs, anybody can win. When you get into these short series, it's obviously, if you get the better starting pitching, you can go deep. My favorite, I guess, would have to be the Rangers to play the Braves right now, and I would probably take the Rangers finally to break through and win that World Series of being there 3 years in a row. But if I was going to pick an underdog, someone under the radar, and a team with great starting pitching and can get hot offensively, the Oakland A's would be a little scary to me in the American League.
Yeah, the A's are scary just because they're defying odds all the time. Likewise with Baltimore, though I don't think they have the starting pitching to hold up in the playoffs. As far as the World Series goes, I'm with Ben. I like the Rangers. I think they're going to get it done this year. And I'm also with Arden in the sense that I think the Nationals are flying under the radar. They're underrated. They're solid top to bottom, starting pitching, bullpen, balanced lineup. They're going to get it done as well in the National League.
I'm taking Washington over Texas, breaking the hearts of Expos fans everywhere.
That's going to sting.
All right, well, thanks so much for taking the time to do this with me, guys. If you want to check out everything that you need to know about the race to the postseason, all the key matchups, we have it updated every single day at sportsnet.ca. Thanks for joining.